Good morning, folks. Couple incredible points to cover today. We'll hit some cosmic news, geophysics at the most awesome level, and we're starting with our star at spaceweathernews.com. We find the last day very quiet. Minor filament activity around the limbs, coronal hole directly facing Earth, no sunspots or solar flares. You'll recall the coronal hole triggered our earthquake warning. We'll come back to that in a moment because we're looking quickly at the solar wind first. This pitiful stream is what a certain article online was scaring people about the last few days. Apart from the cosmic ray hits on the detector, there's only minor telemetry fluctuation, and folks, we did not even catch a whiff of instability in Earth's field, let alone a geomagnetic storm. Speaking of earthquakes, what is going on in Australia? Last few weeks have brought seismicity I haven't seen in my entire time of watching the country, and it continued yesterday. Of course, the biggest event was a 6.8 that struck shallow in Chile. There was a blood echo that occurred due north on the same latitude in Colombia only 15 minutes earlier. It was the second big six-pointer in the last 2 days, and folks, this one, I couldn't believe it at first, is a direct match for page 159 of our book, Weatherman's Guide to the Sun. The bombshell 2018 electroquake study that we're describing in the book found high-pressure surplus energy down in the global electric circuit, right atop the fault line, charging it up. Beyond that, as we said 2 days earlier, South America was our big area to watch heading towards the end of summer here, and now back to the specifics. Folks, this is the high-pressure situation last night. Some energy taken by the lows to the south, but much applied directly to the fault zone of Chile. Back in 2015 when the 8-pointer struck, the focus of that 2018 study, an electric action mechanism, saw the exact same weather setup we just saw yesterday, and the earthquake occurred within a few miles of the quake described in our book. Let's go to Windy and find the tropical systems dancing near Hawaii. Amazingly, the forecasts have only moderate rains coming to the islands. It does appear the worst would miss them in both GFS and European models of the storms. Very good news there. Quick peek at Scotland, where a rare funnel dropped and made for some good photos, and happily, no injuries. And in volcano news, Popo again in Mexico. That's the second eruption we've reported there in the last week or so. We are sticking close to Earth for our first science news. The Perseid meteor shower has begun. It does not peak for 10 days, but you can get started watching in the darkness of night and catching those fireballs now. By the way, this is meteorshowers.org, and it should default to Perseids right now, so it's already loaded when you get there. If you don't remember this 2017 story about a boiling water atmosphere on a close-in exoplanet, I don't blame you. But today, Aug.2.2019 has thrown a curveball at astronomy. While spectrally analyzing the light, they found more than water. They found heavy elements, iron and magnesium, being released and blown away by local stellar winds. That makes this much more like a star, since almost every solar camera we use looks for ionized iron, and at thousands of degrees, this exoplanet is somewhat less than habitable. Up next, cosmic explosions like supernova, universal accelerators like cosmic jets. A NASA scientist will deliver a talk on the state of science in those fields and her personal pathway forward. Well, I really hope it ties up as well as our plasma cosmology movie yesterday, but I'm not holding my breath, especially considering her strong interest in dark matter searches. If you missed it yesterday, we took the entirety of the cosmology field, summarized it, and then let Dr. Peratt describe the only publicly knowable portion of his classified experiments. That video is linked below, and you can see here, we are zooming in on a galaxy in this animation, which takes us to our top story. Using Cepheids, the brightest stars in the sky, they have mapped the local landscape of the galaxy and found it to be anything but flat. There is a warped disk to our galaxy, and that is something of tremendous import. One of the best astrophysical triggers of stellar nova would be an encounter with such a dusty electric sheet, which ties yesterday's plasma cosmology movie to the next infomentary describing the solar micronova, Earth's magnetic reversal, and the catastrophe cycle of our world. If the galactic magnetism science is correct, it's an almost unavoidable consequence of our trip through the galaxy. We greatly appreciate your support. If you missed yesterday's plasma cosmology movie, again, it is linked below. Next one comes out in about 2 weeks, and of course, registration is open for Observing the Frontier 2020. We've got wind maps and shots of our star to close, and we'll do this all again tomorrow, right here, but right now it's 4:20 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.